The Dallas Cowboys traded down in round one and still got their guy. We'll discuss that and more on this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. And what a wild round one. That was so much fun. 6 quarterbacks off the board in the first 12 picks. But we're not talking about quarterbacks. We're not talking about the Atlanta Falcons, who
What?
Go listen to Locked On Falcons. That's gonna be, let me
Good
tell
luck,
you that
Aaron.
much.
Good luck.
Let's talk about the Cowboys. The Cowboys were on the clock at pick 24. Several of their guys were still available, including Graham Barton, Tyler Guyton, Zach Frazier, Jackson Powers-Johnson, and they traded down to pick number 29. We're going to talk about Tyler Guyton, who obviously the Cowboys drafted, but let's talk about the trade first, Landon. What were your thoughts about the Cowboys trading away from Graham Barton?
I was still on board with trading away from Graham Barton. I liked Graham Barton a lot, but the way that the board had fallen, like there was still a lot of picks that would have been very solid picks at the spot that they traded back to. And not knowing the value of the trade, I still just kind of, sight unseen, at least as they got decent value in the trade back scenario, because I felt like, even all our simulations, another bite at the apple gives them more opportunities to kind of play this sort of game of sequencing these picks correctly. And frankly, it turned out great. I mean, I think you ended up hoping to get your 4th round pick back, right? In a sort of trade. And instead you get a high 3rd round pick.
Pick 73. Yes.
Yeah. Number 73 overall, which I think was incredible value. I mean, I don't know. There's very few players I think that could have landed at 24 that I wouldn't have considered trading back for that spot. Right. Like I think, the Cowboys must've been blown away by the offer. I think the reason they talked a lot is to see, hey, could we get a better offer, or do we want to trade away from Barton here? But I mean, again, like,
I can't wait. We probably will never get the audio, but I can't wait to hear like the progression of this trade, because I've got a feeling Detroit maybe was offering like a 4th round pick and Dallas was able to kind of hold them to the fire a little bit and get the 3rd, because I texted somebody that would know. Okay. And if you listen to this podcast a while, you know who I'm probably referring to. The Cowboys picked up what they believe was an additional 4th round pick in expected value in this trade. What I basically mean like that is they got a 4th rounder more than what they should have gotten in this trade. That's pretty significant, right? That is a huge win on all of the analytic trade value charts.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I think one of the things that we talked about and we were wondering about coming into this draft, and honestly, I think I talked about it yesterday, how is the analytics department going to play into this, the draft and the way that the Cowboys operate during the draft? And I think you saw it. I mean, the opportunity for them to kind of get this kind of trade, I don't think it's just coincidence, right? And the fact that they were able to kind of, like you said, get the higher end of that deal, right? To get the former Minnesota pick as opposed to the Detroit 3rd rounder or the Detroit 4th rounder, I think was really important. And again, we'll talk about Guyton here in a second, but I think no matter really who had been there at 24, I mean, realistically, I think, it would have been hard to say no to not trade away when you're getting a 73rd pick overall in return.
And I'm really curious to see how we're trying to figure out how the Cowboys stack these guys, because what we kind of heard going into Thursday was that Troy Fautanu was one of their guys they really liked. Now, he went 20 to Pittsburgh. And then after that, they like Barton and they like Guyton, and then they felt like, or at least this is what like David Moore and Jane Slater were telling us, that there was a pretty good drop after those guys. So to be able to go from 24 to 29 and still get a player that you might have just picked at 24, I think it's a huge win. Again, we'll talk about the player, but I think that the process was great. I'm thrilled with the trade that the Cowboys made.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the key thing here, is that I think the process of it was excellent. And again, it's hard to kind of quantify how excellent it was until we get the pick. We see especially how day 2 rolls out with 3 picks as opposed to 2. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then I think we'll really get to evaluate the value of exactly what the Cowboys were able to get out of this.
Now we should mention that the Lions came up from pick 29 to 24 to get Terrion Arnold, the cornerback from Alabama. I will say there was a part of me that kind of thought he would be a good pick for the Cowboys. We've talked about him really early in the cycle. Like, if you want a Mike Zimmer defensive back, it's Terrion Arnold. And I thought it was almost going to be like too much on the nose for the Cowboys to draft a corner in round 1 in Mike Zimmer's first year back.
Well, I mean, again, like, and I think that even shows you. I mean, that's there. It does show you exactly, right? Like I just said, Terrion Arnold is probably a great example of a guy that I wouldn't realistically say would be there at 24, in the pre-draft process, right? The fact that the Cowboys were blown away, that shows you how blown away they were by this trade offer. The fact that they would trade away from a guy like that who, quarterback's not a need. It's not like you couldn't find a spot to fit him on this defense if you drafted him. You sure could. And I think that, the Cowboys clearly, felt that the value was in the trade back to pick up that extra high 3rd round pick in a draft like this, especially considering the Cowboys' needs and where they meet in that part of the 3rd round.
And we'll probably never know, but I do wonder, like, did the analytics staff have any say in deciding to take the tackle rather than the interior player? Because I think all of us believe that Graham Barton is probably a guard or a center. And maybe they just believe, hey, you take the tackle early just because it gives you so much more value. And I think we talked about this on Wednesday's show. At what point does Tyler Guyton have to be, let's say he's average, to be better than a good or great center? Just because tackles, even average tackles, like I think of somebody like Austin Jackson, who the Miami Dolphins just paid this year, is a very average tackle. He's outpacing what every other center is getting. So maybe it does make more sense financially to take your tackles early and then try to find the interior players later in the draft. And the other thing is, this draft is loaded with interior players.
That's what I was just going to say.
Maybe you can still find one of those guys later.
I think maybe the angles are changed even more so if this wasn't a crazy deep center class. I mean, look, we made it all the way through the 1st round. JPJ, Frazier, they're still on the board. So like, I'm not saying that they're definitely either one of them will make it to 56, but it will push down the other guys, so you can get a Tortellini or
maybe like, I'll give you an example. Like, one of the guys that I'm not sure Dallas will draft at 56, but won't get to their pick at, what do they draft? 87, 86,
73 now.
Yeah. Well, like Cooper Beebe. I think Cooper Beebe is like somebody that you could draft at 73 to play center in the NFL. Probably falls between those 2 picks. And now you have the option to take him.
Man, now you're cooking, dude.
I know.
Now you're cooking. See, that's why you do things like that, right? Is that you still have opportunity to kind of be a little bit flexible to see where the value is at each one of these spots. And even if you don't, even if you kind of go kind of chalk and you pick somebody at 56, 73 becomes suddenly an excellent spot to potentially pick up a running back.
All right, let's talk about the player that the Cowboys drafted at pick number 29. That is Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. We'll discuss what we think about his fit in Dallas, what we think about the pick, and so much more when we get back. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find as many quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode of your favorite Locked On podcast is brought to you by the best meal kit service in the game, Home Chef. No more having to answer the dreaded question, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Thanks to Home Chef and their chef-designed recipes that are delivered directly to my door, all pre-packaged, pre-portioned. They even peel the garlic cloves for you. And each recipe, one of my favorites, blackened mahi-mahi, comes with a full page of easy-to-read instructions that include customization options and pictures to guide you along the way through the step-by-step process so you don't have to ask, is that what chard looks like? I cannot recommend Home Chef enough, especially right now, because for a limited time, Home Chef is giving Locked On listeners 18 free meals, free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box if you head to homechef.com/lockedon today. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Yes, you heard that right. Homechef.com/lockedon. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Are you having to turn down the volume because of all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, let's discuss the Cowboys' latest first-round draft pick. That is Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle from Oklahoma. Can you break him down for maybe the first-time listeners being exposed to this player?
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I can just do a real quick through his notes. I have he's tall with long legs, very solid build, but with kind of average length and wingspan. Even though he's 6'7" and 3/4, he has 34 1/8 inch arms, which is good length, but not not a Mims length, right? Not 36-inch arms or whatever. But his long legs, do help him with his kick slide. He covers a lot of ground getting out of his set. His punch is a bit of a mess at times. His timing and placement have been problematic at times. However, when he marries his feet and his hands together, he can deliver a very serious blow in his initial punch. His movement skill is elite, so he can stay in front of rushers well, but his hands and feet are often not in sync. He likes to get in close clamps and can get defenders turned with good core strength, but not really burying folks. A lot of this can be kind of summed up by the fact that he's new to the position, relatively speaking, right? So it's not coming to him in a very second nature sort of way yet. He's played, I pointed out that I feel like he's played a lot of snaps, like in comparison to some of these other kind of raw upside prospects. I mean, he's only a one-year starter, but he's played 1,000+ snaps in comparison to Mims, who's played 800, right? But I think really what it is that he's at a point in his game that he really just needs to pay closer attention to the details in sort of all aspects, right? Like he has everything you want to become a starting left tackle, and he does, and you see it on tape. You see it. There's times when he's dominant. You see that there's times when he gets out of his set and it looks beautiful and it looks exactly like you want it to. He fires out of his stance and he'll bury a guy or two, but it's not consistent. And the reason it's not consistent is because his technique is not consistent. And I think that the reason his technique is not consistent is because he just simply needs to play more. I have some concerns that, I would like for him to have been a little bit further along after kind of playing a season at OU. But I think that you saw some better things at the Senior Bowl. You saw some bad things there too. You saw the bad that's there that needs to be fixed. He's going to be a guy that is going to have a really important training camp coming in. And I think that, we've already seen a guy like Tyler Smith, make a kind of transition. I think Tyler Smith transitioned, honestly, from where he was at Tulsa to where he ended up before he became a starter in the NFL was a much steeper climb, to be honest.
Especially going from playing guard all training camp to back out to left tackle,
Yeah. And yeah, and then again from playing against competition at Tulsa, right? Like at least Guyton was playing at Oklahoma. So I think that the questions I have about Guyton are about that initial learning curve to kind of where he can go and how high that ceiling can be.
I think it's going to be rough early.
Yeah, I think it could be rough early for sure. The question I don't really have is this guy going to be a starting offensive lineman for after year 2? I feel pretty confident about that. Whether he's a above average left tackle or a really great left tackle, that's where I think I don't really see where his ceiling is at this point. And I don't mean that like it's so high I can't see it. I mean, it's like it could easily be, oh, he's a guy that struggles with technique problems but gets away with it for the most of his career because he's a big guy in the NFL who moves well. Or it's, oh, he cleans up the technique, he gets some consistency, and he's an all-pro left tackle, which I think that's within his range of possibilities with his athleticism.
Yeah, I mean, here's my initial reaction when the Cowboys made the pick. Like, because I think sometimes when you make a pick, like your first 5 seconds are probably the most like honest and revealing. My thought was, oh, thank goodness Tyler Smith stays at left guard. Like, honestly, that was my first thought. It's fair. Like, my concern with Barton is I'm not sure he's a center. I think he's a guard. Okay, does that mean you move Tyler Smith? Now, your offensive line might have been better right away, but I think the Cowboys have something very special in Tyler Smith at left guard. And if you can have a very athletic tackle on the left side, who maybe you can give some help right away as he's kind of learning. Remember, this is somebody who has not played a lot. And I think that's one of the things that's very interesting. 13 career starts at right tackle, 1 at left tackle. I would have to imagine that he's just going to get better the more he plays. And as long as he's got the right football character to want to develop and get better, I think he's going to be fine. Clearly the Cowboys were comfortable with it. I know we're recording this right now when the Cowboys press conference is going on. They really, really like Tyler Guyton. Like, you could tell, like, that was somebody that they were very, very high on. We'll see. They have earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to drafting offensive linemen. I mean, whether it's whoever in their scouting department has been scouting these guys, they deserve some credit here.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too to remember is that, again, how we felt about how some folks felt about some of these other picks, including Tyler Smith and the aspects of the benefit of a doubt for sure. But I think the other thing to remember here is that these guys, they're young. They get into these groups, and we talked about this honestly just a couple days ago. There's 2 things that we can't see, right? There's 2 things that we have no insight to. Usually, I mean, maybe you get some medical and who the kid is, right, and what kind of work ethic they have. And this was something I talked about specifically in conjunction to Tyler Guyton. You don't know how hard he's going to work, right? Like, and I mean that both the good and the bad way, right? Like, he could either be a total bum and be glad to be getting a bunch of money and not work hard, or he could be the kind of guy that's picking up the phone tomorrow and calling Duke and seeing if he can get in and start working with his teammates and start getting ready, and that is going to be as much of a determining factor, especially with a guy like Tyler Guyton on his level of success, as almost anything. And that's why it's tough for us sometimes to kind of have confidence in these guys, is because we don't know the human being that's behind the tape that we see on film.
A couple other nuggets from the Cowboys post-draft press conference. They had 4 guys that all had similar grades, and that's why they traded back from pick 24 to 29. They knew that the Lions were coming up to get Terrion Arnold, so they knew they were going to get one of their guys. Jerry Jones also kind of gave away what the Cowboys are planning on doing on day 2 of the draft, which, I mean, we should be surprised right now. Let's talk about it, and let's do a mock draft, a day 2 mock draft for the Cowboys when we get back. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I've been told I'm a competitive person, and my competitive side absolutely loves Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not just one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent. on my iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free in the App Store or Google Play. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We are going to do a day 2 mock draft as we head into Friday, Landon, which this is a lot of fun. So courtesy of our friends at Pro Football Focus, let's do a little mock. And I wanted to mention something. Jerry Jones very much hinted at the idea that the Cowboys are looking to draft a center like in the 3rd round. Like they basically said the pick they got at 73. They're planning on using for a center. Let's do a mock to see how that goes off for the Cowboys.
Plays out. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So if you're watching with us on YouTube, we're starting here at the top. Is there anybody, just really quickly, like that you would be willing to trade up from 56 to 33 to go get?
No, I think I'm very happy with the picks I'm at. I mean, I certainly would be interested in adding more picks, but I'm very happy with the number of picks and where they are right now. And I don't know that there's. I like specifically where they are in relation to what I'm having to pick. So I think we should wait.
All right, let's go ahead and do the draft. So I will read off the picks: Kool-Aid McKinstry, Ladd McConkey. We've got Cooper DeJean off the board. Patrick Paul, Keon Coleman, Jackson Powers Johnson, Zach Frazier goes to the Colts. Ooh, Jonathan Brooks off the board. It looks like at pick 49 to the Bengals. That's a tough one, Landon. That is
tough.
All right. Let's talk about this. So, top players available: Troy Franklin, Javon Bullard, Chris Jenkins, Blake Corum, Edgerrin Cooper, which one of the top linebackers in the class is very interesting. Jalen Wright, Junior Colson is still available. Trey Benson is still available. What do you want to do here?
There's certain guys that I wondered, like, do they ever look at Christian Hayes at center, right? Because like he's a guard, like, and he's played I think only mostly exclusive guard, but I really, really, really like his tape and would like to take him here. But I'm not taking him at the risk of, trying to move. Well, I guess you wouldn't move Tyler Smith at this point now that you've got your tackle,
right? That's nice. Things are a little bit more settled now, right?
Yeah, so maybe you could consider that there. You certainly could look at the linebackers. I mean, I think this makes that more palatable, right? If you want to make a linebacker.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You and I were having a conversation just on the phone a couple days ago about drafting a linebacker like end of round 1, top of round 2. It's a little rich, but if one of those guys falls to you, Cooper or Colson, I'm very happy.
I'm not mad about it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think it's certainly a lot more palatable than, like I said, taking him at the bottom of the 1st round. So I think that makes some sense. I think I don't know if there's any of these running backs that I would take at this point here. I mean, I guess we could take. Did Trey Benson go?
No, he is still available. That one is very intriguing to me.
Yeah, you wonder if, they have him ranked like 75, so I wonder where he goes in this. But like in real life, would you look at this and think maybe you look at getting your running back here, even though you don't have Jonathan Brooks? I think Benson would be the only one I would really consider, right? Mm-hmm. It's a little bit rich for Jalen Wright. I would like Jalen Wright at 73, but I think Benson probably. So I guess that begs the question: would you rather have running back or linebacker? At 56?
But the reason for me is I don't think the linebackers
the drop off
at all.
Yeah, exactly.
In this mock, Peyton Wilson is off the board. I feel good about Cooper and Colson at this spot. I like Colson a little bit better. If your linebackers are Eric Kendricks, Junior Colson, and Overshown, and then Damone Clark is your 4th, I feel pretty good about that. And I still have picks later on in day 2 to fill in other need spots. I would like one of those guys a lot.
I think I agree, and I honestly think I would pick Colson too. I mean, I think normally I would say I like Cooper, but I do think that Colson is more of what you're looking for in the linebacker, right?
I agree.
So I think Colson might be the better pick for the
Cowboys.
Well,
let's just call that a linebacker. I think that's very likely. I think Peyton Wilson's also an option there. I don't think.
Oh, sure, if he's there, absolutely.
Right. So if I had to make a prediction right now, I think they draft a linebacker here at round 2. This is where it gets really interesting. So if we're looking at the running backs on the board, we lucked out. Jalen Wright is still available. Trey Benson is still available. I do want to mention Braylon Allen is still there. Audric Estime. So you have running backs, and I feel pretty good about that. If you want to draft a center, your top guys there are Cooper Beebe, Tanner Bortolini, who again PFF is very low on Tanner Bortolini. I think he goes sometime on.
I think he's a 3rd rounder, right?
I think he's maybe closer to the bottom of the 3rd.
Yeah, I agree. He's a 3-4.
Yeah, Cedric Van Pran, who's actually not too bad. There's some options here.
Man, it's tough for me to look at Cooper Beebe there and say no, especially since it's like you feel like you look at the running backs, and I mean, can we add in the running backs there?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's like Benson still being there at 73 is tough too. I don't know if he makes it to 73. That's the thing. I probably, in this situation, I would probably take Wright or Benson and see what happens.
I would take Benson because I feel like he is a
Benson. Yeah,
you plug him in. He is a day 1 running back, and then you can kind of piece together the rest of the committee.
I'm sorry, I should have been clear. Benson is definitely the pick if you're going running back here because he's the higher rated dude. He's definitely closer to Brooks. But I'm saying even if Benson wasn't here,
then Wright's exactly.
I might still take Wright here as opposed to
you want to take Benson?
Yeah, let's take Benson. Yeah.
Okay. So far through 3 rounds, Tyler Guyton, Junior Colson, Trey Benson. If that's the draft, we're doing it. We're living life. Let's talk about the interior offensive line. Cooper Beebe still there. So is Mason McCormick, Cedric Van Pran. Again, I think this is the Tanner Bortolini range if you want to do that. All good options. If you want to look at other positions now with this extra pick, Jalen McMillan, a wide receiver from Washington, who I know a lot of people like, Javon Baker, is another highly regarded player. If you want to look at defensive line, Michael Hall is there, who's a penetrating up the field 3 technique. Tavondre Sweat, which no thanks. Any other positions that are interesting to you?
Not that's making me move off my spot. I don't think. I think this is where I would take Tanner. And be thrilled.
Cooper Beebe is available.
Oh, Cooper Beebe is available. Oh, I'm sorry. Then yes, please. I'm running up and doing cartwheels. We won. Yes, absolutely. Take Cooper Beebe.
I mean, I don't know how realistic it is for Cooper Beebe to be available at that spot, but this is the benefit.
This is why you do this, though, right?
This is why this trade is so beneficial to the Cowboys. It just gives them so many more options. And what I also like about it, they didn't have to dip into their day 3 picks, or sorry, their extra picks for next year. They still have those 4 comp picks. If you want to move around in the draft a little bit now, if you want to move up from 73 to 58 to go get some players, you can do that too. Love this. I'm not the biggest fan of Tyler Guyton. I've got mixed feelings a little bit, but if you can end up with a draft of Tyler Guyton, Junior Colson, Trey Benson, Cooper Beebe, loving it.
Yeah, PFF is straight wrong on that grade. That's an A+ grade, in my opinion. That's incredible. Yeah, and then still having the rest of your, day 3 to kind of fill in things, but you hit all the spots you needed to hit, all the starters, and you got guys that I think can come in and contribute right away at frankly each one of the spots. Doesn't get any better than that, frankly.
This is a rare thing for me to feel encouraged going into day 2 of the draft. Usually I'm sulking, but this one's fun. I'm not the biggest Tyler Guyton fan, but I'm also not as low on him as other people. I think where you got him at 29, that's where you take those
appropriate value, right?
Yeah. Yes. And now the Cowboys have a little bit more draft ammunition to go fill out the needs that they need to do. So all in all, a good day for the Cowboys in round 1. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube. We post videos every single day over there. We will be back on Monday to break down all of the Cowboys selections. We're going to be doing some in-depth breakdowns of every player. We're going to be looking at their undrafted free agents over the next couple of weeks. So busy time here in the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Make sure you're downloading the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here on Monday.